April the 28th, 2025. Guys, there's a lot going on right now, both spiritually and physically, and they combine very well when the devil gets involved. Right now, you're looking at an article, and this picture, by the way, is coming out of Dublin, Ireland, and you've got European protests going on, Ireland, Germany, England, and Poland, as citizens demand control over their national identity and borders. Same thing that was just about to happen to us if we'd had a few more months of the Biden administration. But Europe's been setting themselves up for years, anti-gun laws, all of that stuff. Now freedom of speech is almost nil and void there. In many places, the UK has more people that are from other countries than they do UK citizens. And it's just been a massive overrun. What's happened, guys, is the overlords of the planet want chaos, and they want it in these end times. And they're starting to get it. Now, I expected this to start happening. Now, again, they don't have the same leverage that American citizens do because of the Second Amendment, right? But there is power in numbers, and there's thousands, and there's actually videos of drones going up and down over these streets that are full of thousands of people in different cities. And again, their identity's been lost. They no longer are being run by people from their own country with their own country's interests and their citizens' interests at heart. It's not happening. And it is a complete Babylonian takeover. And when I say that we're talking about the spiritual realm getting involved in this physical. Now, what will the leaders do there with this? They're going to try to downplay it, create chaos, create diversion, possibly martial law, and other things to shut down their ability to communicate. I'm talking about these protesters across Europe and other things. Now, something has happened that many of you know about that may be connected. And what's happened, most of you have probably seen some information about it, is that there's chaos sweeps Iberia, mass blackouts in Spain, Portugal, and France sparked fears of a cyber attack. Could have been, we don't know yet, it could have been internal. In other words, this would create a lot of chaos, guys. Their trains are down, their elevators, their subways, their hospitals are on 24-hour diesel supplies for their generators. And a lot of the countries have moved to solar power, and they build that up during the daytime and all. Some of it's over 60%, but it's what's called a non-inertia power system. In other words, when you don't have big generators spinning, something happens to your solar or anything like that, you're in trouble. It shuts down immediately. There's no winding down of it. It just ends. So has the leaders there done this to protect themselves and protect their political stances as far as now, we don't have power, we can declare martial law, or we can declare curfews. You can't communicate. They don't have cell phones in many places. And it's getting dark there now. So the solar really depends on how good your backup power battery systems are. That is really going to affect it. But 60-70% is pretty wild, and they have set themselves up for failure. And is this on purpose? It's saying millions across Spain, Portugal, and parts of southern France were plunged into darkness today as a sudden and sweeping blackout, already been called one of Europe's largest, has sparked chaos, crippling cities, halting train networks, shuttering airports, forcing critical infrastructure to limp along on emergency generators. You talk about it getting nighttime, things like that, guys. They're having different tennis tournaments and everything over in Europe now. It's pretty much shut down a lot of things. It's amid mounting speculation and a lack of clear answers. Some have voiced fears that the blackout could be the result of a coordinated cyber attack, an explanation that conveniently fits the narrative of a globalist-led Europe looking to ready the continent's population for war with Russia. What they're saying again here is blame it on Russia and bring all the nations together to go to war with them. That's one speculative thing that's out there. It says the lights first flickered and died around midday, with Spain's power grid showing a stunning collapse in a matter of seconds. Airports in Madrid, Barcelona, Seville, and Valencia scrambled as their systems crashed, while metro services ground to a halt in Madrid, Porto, Lisbon, and Valencia. Even the Madrid Open tennis tournament had to call an abrupt time out. Now, excuse me, my voice is a little rough today. It got hot this morning. We're doing some work outside. Anyway, everything's gone to cash only. Think about that. You can't use your credit cards because there's no power. It happened to us for 2 weeks here after Katrina. But this is millions of people. Residents across the Iberian Peninsula already shaken by mounting economic and political instability following the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russia-Ukrainian war were left to fend for themselves as traffic lights failed, grocery stores closed, EV chargers went dark, and petrol pumps ran dry. Now, in the chaos, the reports emerged that outages stretched even into parts of Belgium, suggesting the problem might be bigger than initially thought. Spain's cybersecurity agent, INSIBE, has announced it was investigating whether this catastrophic blackout was triggered by a cyber attack. The president of Andalusia didn't mince words when he said that based on regional cybersecurity data, a hostile cyber operation was the most likely cause. Some said there was increased ground currents. I checked, they weren't that strong. Nothing has been anywhere on the graphs as strong as it was back on the 16th and 17th when we had that solar storm, that G4 solar storm. But I looked at the graphs going back 30 days, and there was nothing big today, nothing compared to that. And that was really an event across the world as far as the ground currents. It says the Spanish government, however, remained tight-lipped, refusing to officially confirm or deny whether foreign interference is being treated as a serious possibility. Now, cyber operations, guys, it doesn't say it here, but they can come from the inside, too. Now, Madrid's regional leader, Diaz Ayuso, has already demanded that Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez activate Spain's highest emergency protocol, Level 3, which would deploy the army, here we go, martial law, to maintain order if things spiral further out of control. With Soros and that group of I'm just going to say it, we have aliens among us, and they have very long lives, and they are the controllers. They are the globalists. They have human puppets, but we are dealing with extraterrestrial intelligence that has been here since the beginning. And it will remain here until Christ sets his foot down and casts the devil into hell, into that pit. Because the devil was here in the beginning, and he's been here the entire time. He's still here now, and he's running the show. He's going to continue running it until Christ throws away the keys. Meanwhile, residents across Spain and Portugal force frustration over the lack of communication. There's no traffic lights, no trains, no subways. They still haven't said anything about why it happened, said Kathy Diaz Romero, speaking from a small town in Catalonia. Others, like Trevor Court near Barcelona, are painted a grim picture. Most places are electric. No hot drinks, no food, no petrol. If this keeps up, it's going to get ugly very fast. And it's already ugly over there in most places. Again, England, there's so many no-go zones, and the police are all pretty much in on it in all of these places. But there's leaders that are very high, and we're going to do a video about these leaders, and they're not human. Anyway, though power has been slowly restored in some areas, the situation remains unstable. Generators are keeping hospitals afloat for now, but their diesel supplies are expected to last just 24 hours, a ticking clock that few are willing to ignore. Now, 24 hours, this thing started at least 12 hours ago. So you've got about 12 hours left of that diesel unless you can get more supplies in. But when you shut down the grid and you shut down electric pumps, even the trucks it's hard to refill the trucks that are coming to the petrol stations, things like that. Now, when we talk about non-human globalists, the European Commission immediately comes to mind. It's adding fuel to the fire, issued a vague statement saying it was in contact with Spanish and Portuguese authorities, but provided little reassurance. On a continent already burdened by soaring energy prices, unchecked migration, and widespread public discontent, the blackout has only deepened a growing sense of unease. It would be very uneasy, guys, if you've ever lived through a long-term blackout, even 2 weeks like we did. It can get kind of rough, and we're in the summer. If a cyber attack is ultimately confirmed, this would mark one of Europe's most devastating acts of cyber sabotage to date, potentially dwarfing the 2003 blackout that left 56 million without power in Italy and Switzerland. By the way, what's on the Italy and Swiss border? CERN. Anyway, and I think that had something to do with the 2003 blackout, to be honest with you. But I checked CERN when this went down. They were not running. They were down. They had some problems. And we had low solar wind, getting back down to normal. We had that steady stream coming in, but it is not splitting open the shields, and you're down in the low 400s as far as the solar wind speed now. We are very hot here. The temperature saying 86, the real feel was 98 earlier, and we are in heat warnings here in central Mississippi, so you guys be aware of that and take it stay hydrated, take it easy, make sure your pets are comfortable and hydrated. Ours have air conditions, and so we make sure of that. And that's not easy when you have 11, and that's kind of what we're having to do some outside work. But guys, right now, a lot of things are happening. The devil is working overtime. I'm thinking, man, this is coming down. Each day is adding to, as they were saying, fuel to the fire. And I'm not trying to spread fear, because fear creates negative energy. And they like to operate on that negative energy. Spread fear daily through the media. And what I'm doing here is not fear. This is information. And I'm not trying to scare anybody or do anything else, but when they do things like this and they press the fear narrative, they are dealing with very low frequency. And there's about 3 levels. Without going into it technically, the higher frequencies are from our Father in heaven. That's spiritual. The other 2 frequencies, level 2 and 1, are more man-made, earthbound, lower frequencies that are like a dumbing down and a blocking frequency for the 3rd level. But God's going to shut that down with the healing wings. Remember Malachi chapter 4. And we're starting to see it right now, but I think things are rapidly moving into some kind of planetary conflict with great changes coming. I've got a couple of videos. One I'm making, get up this afternoon. Depends how things go, but we've got to be aware of who these leaders really are, guys. It's coming down to that now, and until we understand who they are and how long they've been here, some hiding, some taking on other personas. Think about this. You had the gods of the ancients. You had the gods of the Hindu gods. You had the Atlantean gods. You had the Egyptian gods. You had the Roman gods. You had the gods throughout the Middle East. You had then the Roman god, or the Greek gods went to Roman gods. Where did they all go? Where are they now? Think about that. Have you ever read where they died, or they were killed, or they left? No, they just merged, and they're here, and they are working day and night to keep our Father, His message, from getting to us and opening up our DNA back to the pure DNA that it was meant to be. Everybody's not going to feel it, because you've got to understand many preachers will say you must be born again, and they're not misquoting what they're reading, they're misquoting the original language when it says you must be born from above through the water of the mother and the spirit of the Father. That is not Kenites. These are not inbred people. That we're talking about, not the ones that our Father has created, but there have been other ones. And guys, we're also looking at a 7,000-year cycle of some type of comet coming through and causing a great amount of damage. And it's in 7,000-year cycles. And we're getting very close to the end of this 7,000-year cycle. They're not exactly, but if you look at the timing and some of the information coming from some of the ancient sites in Turkey about these comets, I think in every time it's happened, let me say this, it's been where Babylon had expanded to every city on the planet. You talk about Sodom and Gomorrah, and even Jerusalem was included in that when they crucified our Savior. They had turned to that, and look at New York, look at L.A., look at England, look at every major city on the planet right now, guys, is controlled by the people I'm talking about. Where did the gods go? They are here, and they are running the show. I've got a lot of information on that, and so the reason I want to do it is I understand it. A lot of people don't, and they're going to be caught off guard. They're not going to understand it, and it's going to be such a confusing situation when this change continues to occur. It's occurring now, but when it continues, unless you have knowledge of what is happening, it's going to drive you crazy. Men are going to wish to die our people, but they cannot. We're watching it, guys. Things are getting heavy and they're getting deep. It's a heads up. Be safe.